All right, we're back on the record. The matter of Gregory Martin Sr., 24PR00777, continuation of the trial from this morning. I believe we left off with Ms. Wilkes' cross-examination of Ms. Huffman. Ms. Huffman is here, and you are still under oath. Ms. Wilkes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I believe I had asked a question. Did you know approximately how long the phone interview was?
And asked which phone conversation between us are you referring to?
As I recall, there was only one, so that phone conversation that evening when you called.
I'm not sure which one because we did have more than one. There was one, at least one in which Mr. Wisdom was on the speakerphone with you.
That's the only one.
So prior to that, you were in the hospital. You guys said, I can meet you there. I'm already on my way.
That was Mr. Wisdom meeting you at the hospital. I never met you at the hospital.
You're going to object to her testifying.
Yeah, Ms. Wilkes, I know this part is super hard.
Okay, I'll just say disagree then. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, next question.
So you do recall Mr. Wisdom being on the two-way conference?
I do recall that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you know that there was money missing out of Mr. Martin's account? Or there was money missing out of accounts?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know that Mr. Martin had a bookkeeper?
No, I did not know that.
Okay.
That was not shared with me.
Did you know Mr. Martin had a caregiver?
During the times when he was in and out of the hospital, it's my understanding that you were responsible for overseeing his care, and that he then had, according to you, I think 2 caregivers?
Disagree.
3.
Did you know Mr. Martin had a caregiver?
Ms. Wilkes, one second. So remember, you're stuck with the answer. You don't get to comment on it by saying what you just said, which is I disagree. Now, here's the thing. I have a lot of patience.
Okay.
But I think this is the 3rd time I've had to
I'm
mention
sorry,
that.
Your Honor.
So, please.
I'm not experienced
I understand, which is why I give you some latitude. But I only had so much latitude to give before the gas tank is empty.
I'm sorry. I don't want to empty your gas tank. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Wilkes.
Thank you.
All right, any redirect?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few questions. Ms. Huffman, just to clarify, in your interactions with Mr. Martin Sr., he was unable to understand the medical information.
Correct.
And in this investigation that you did of Ms. Wilkes, did you completed the investigation?
Mm-hmm.
And do you stand by your findings?
I do.
And do you believe that Ms. Wilkes is appropriate to serve as power of attorney for Mr. Martin?
I do not.
Those are all my questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Huffman, thank you very much for your time. You are free to go, okay? Ms. Wilkes, they get the last shot on redirect, okay? All right, Ms. Huffman, you're free to go. Thank you. All right, your next witness.
Your Honor, we're going to call Ms. Dawn Brethauer. I will get here. Regarding Dawn, Your Honor, at this moment, can I ask you a clarification question?
Sure.
If we have witnesses that we would like to use for rebuttal testimony, would you like them to remain outside the courtroom, or may they come in the courtroom?
You know, they'd have to wait outside.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Mr. Blake.
On this rebuttal question, do we get to ask rebuttal questions? Or is it just one side?
So the way trials work, whether it's a criminal trial or a civil trial like this one, the petitioner filed the case, they have what's called the burden of proof. So they're the ones that need to prove, in this case by clear and convincing evidence. You don't have to prove anything. But because they have the burden of proof, just like the state would in a criminal case, they get last shot. It's called the rebuttal case.
Oh, so that last one after we...
No, so in other words, when they're done with their case, you guys will put on your case, and when you're done with your case,
Gotcha.
you're done.
Okay, gotcha.
They can call rebuttal witnesses only to rebut whatever it is you may have said in your case, should you
Okay.
choose to put on a case,
So
okay?
it isn't like that was their second time asking her, so that's not the rebuttal there for that witness.
That's not the rebuttal, it's called redirect, that's a different concept.
Gotcha.
It gives you the last chance to ask your own witness questions.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Do we have your witness come in, it look like?
Yes, she is here.
All right, come on up, ma'am. Hi. I'll have you come up inside the witness box here and remain standing and take direction from my clerk.
Please raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. And for the record, please say your first and last name and spell them both.
Yes, Dawn Brether, DAWN, BRETHOUR.
Okay, counsel?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Brother. I apologize if I mispronounced it. Can you explain your occupation?
I'm a director of human resources for a semiconductor company.
Okay. And how do you know Mr. Martin Sr.?
Mr. Martin, like my father? Yes, he's my father.
Okay. And do you know who Mr. Waleed is?
I do.
And is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
And how do you know him?
He's my brother.
Okay. And do you know the person sitting next to Mr. Waleed?
Yes, we met.
And who is that?
Selena
Do you know her last name?
Wilkes.
Thank you. And could you give us a little bit of background about how we got here today?
Okay, so my father has had multiple strokes. The last one that he had was in May of 2023, at which time he then went into a skilled nursing facility near my home for 8 weeks. That's where I first met Selena. She just kind of showed up and was there. And so that's how I met her from there. At the time, I was making arrangements for my father to go to a skilled nursing facility. I worked with the staff and some care folks, saw different homes, and found him a place that was near me that he was interviewed and he agreed to go to. I believe Selena had disappeared for a couple of weeks, and so he was kind of going along with my plan. The day before we were going to, for him to be released, she shows up, and I needed my father's ID, which apparently she had. So I told him, game's up, we need the ID so that we can get the money so that you can pay for your care. And that's when he rattled off the phone number, called Earl, and then she showed up and had his ID. The agreement was that we were going to go to the bank the next day when he was released, get the money, and then he was going to go to the new home with the registered nurse around the corner from my house. That was the plan. I show up right before he's about to be released, and all of a sudden I am verbally attacked by Selena, calling names, making accusations that I'm out to take my father's money, and let me know that she had power of attorney. I asked my father in that moment, are you kidding? Why would you bother giving me power of attorney to help you figure things out if you gave it to her? If that's what you want, then I can be done. He asked for both of us to still work together. I said, that's not gonna happen. They went against the doctor's orders and then decided to take him. That was July 7th of 2023, at which point I I said I was done. I asked Earl where he was taking my father, to which he responded, "We're taking him to a location that he chooses not to be disclosed." And that was the last time that I saw my father as of that day, and I kind of washed my hands because I had spent the past 2 months really trying to help him, and in 2021, when he had his first stroke, I brought him into my home and cared for him and brought him back to health, and then he moved back to his girlfriend's house. So we're here because my dad continues to make bad decisions when it comes to his health and the people that he trusts. When he went with them, they would not tell me where he was. I couldn't get a hold of him. Everything got transferred over to Earl as far as the health care for the VA hospital, and I lost track of my dad at that point. I received a phone call when he had a septic shock and went into Good Sam Hospital. I got a call from a caseworker because Celine was trying to pretend that she was a family member when she was not, and would not notify them any of his children. At that point, I went to go see my dad in the hospital, and I saw him a couple of times. They had to put him under to get the medicine to work for his body. A couple of days later, I go to call to check on him. I'm transferred to the nurse's station, and I'm asked for, what's the password? My brother apparently had called and put a password on it, and we were not speaking. And so that was in December, and I hadn't seen him since. And that's kind of where we are here today. I had power of attorney. I kind of was done in July 7th of 2023, just due to all of the drama. I was finished.
Thank you. Did at some point, let's see, since the end of July, or when you last saw your father, have you had a chance to see him at the VA hospital?
Yes, I have gone to visit him at the VA hospital when I found out finally where he was, and I've seen him multiple times.
Okay. And in your observations of him, do you think he would be able to understand when a medical provider is asking him which form of treatment to take?
No.
Do you think he would be able to consent to any action that is being put in front of him?
No.
Do you think he'd be able to provide for his own food?
No.
Do you think he'd be able to provide for his own shelter?
No.
How about his own clothing?
No.
Could he take showers without assistance?
No.
Or use the restroom?
No.
Do you think that without somebody, a fiduciary, somebody to help him, that he'd be at a serious risk of injury?
Yes. I
Do you?
No, I do. He is unable to do anything for himself. In 2023, I think he had a half of a chance of getting back to some independence, but even then, he needed assistance going to the bathroom, getting dressed. But he was somewhat mobile and building some of his strength back up, but it's completely gone now.
Do you think it's likely that he would entrust somebody who, that he's known for a long time, do you think it's likely that he would entrust that person as a power of attorney?
That he's known for a long time? If they pretended to be his friend, probably he made some bad decisions.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge of any prior susceptibility to financial elder abuse?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you think at this point he would be able to do things like pay his bills?
No.
Do you think he'd be able to sell real property?
No.
Do you think he'd be able to apply for any kind of VA benefits?
No.
Let's see. Have you had a chance to communicate with Miss Fuller?
No. Oh, her.
Yes.
Yes, I have. Sorry. Yes, I have. She's been very responsive to any questions that I call and ask about my father's care, where he's at, if his room has been changed. She's always responsive.
Has she ever denied you access to him?
Never.
Do you believe that she would continue to serve as a good fiduciary for your father?
I do.
Can you describe what your brother's relationship is like with, or Mr. Wallace's relationship is like with Mr. Martin Sr.?
I think they have a very volatile, unhealthy relationship. My father does not trust my brother. He calls him a con. He thinks he's a vulture. When my brother came to visit my father in my house in 2021, my brother went on and on about his work. He's doing electrical and showing my father pictures, to which my father just sat there staring blankly. At one point, he just got up and walked away. When my brother left, I said to my dad, "Jeez, aren't you at least acknowledging that's all he wants is for you to acknowledge the work that he's doing?" And I quote, "He's a weirdo, and I don't trust him." I used to feel bad for the relationship that my brother had with my father because he just spoke very negatively about him. My father had a procedure for open heart surgery, probably at least been 10 years. My brother came to visit with him and basically said, my dad's words, that, "Oh, I thought you were going to die here to see what my inheritance was going to be." So my
Objection.
father always felt as though all my brother wanted to do was cash in.
Is it Brethor? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have you pause just 1 second. Whenever someone has an objection, then I have to address it, and I'll
Okay.
get back to you, okay?
Sure.
All right, so Mr. Lee, what's the basis of your objection?
It's hearsay.
Ms. Salisbury?
It's not used for the truth of the matter asserted. Additionally, I believe Mr. Martin is a party to this matter, so it could be used as a party admissions.
Well, he is, I mean, you're the petitioner and he's the respondent, so he is an opposing party, so that's an exception, sir, so what he said can be used. Okay, so I'm going to overrule the objection. You can continue. Okay. If you need her to repeat the question, that's fine.
We were talking about your relationship between Mr. Martin.
So it wasn't healthy. It wasn't good. He didn't trust him, and I want to say he didn't like him. It's sad to say that. It's sad for me to be here to have to make this testimony against my brother, my father, but he did not trust you. He did not feel that you had his best interest, and he felt that you were always after his property or money that you felt you were entitled to, and it's his, not yours.
Do
And
you
know that's the truth?
Do you support the guardianship and the permanent guardianship and conservatorship for your father?
I do. He needs someone to be able to look after his affairs. They're all a mess, and to be able to represent him, to get his assets back and his money back that's been spent, so that he can have care for himself, to have quality of life. That's all I want.
Okay. And would you be interested in serving as that guardian?
Nope.
Would you consent to Ms. Fuller and Ms. Fosbach serving as the professional fiduciaries?
I do.
Any concerns you have about them serving?
I don't. They've been responsive, and I think responsible. And I feel like being a fiduciary, with the court involved, that they're going to adhere to the guidelines and do what is in the best interest of my father, and go after those that have taken advantage of him and that have spent money that they're not entitled to.
Mr. Walid has alleged in multiple situations that he is the current power of attorney for your father. When you had your power of attorney, did it revoke any prior powers of attorney?
No, I had no idea. I got power of attorney in May around 2023. When my father was admitted to the hospital, two of his friends, Carlos and Rick Adams, had informed me that they felt my father had been taken advantage of by Luther Foreman, and that he needed representation. And so the idea was for me to get power of attorney to help my dad get his affairs back in order. It was a conversation that me and my dad had. He agreed to. And so we went through the process while he was in the hospital to get the power of attorney to begin that process. So that's all I know as far as power of attorney that he had given.
In the power of attorney document itself, and I apologize, I do not have it in front of me, did it say in there that that power of attorney was revoking other powers of attorney?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I don't have the forms. I did not know that there was any other power of attorney,
Okay.
and I don't have the documents with me.
Sure. Okay, so you were not informed that there had ever been a prior power of attorney?
No, not at all.
Were you ever informed about a family settlement agreement or anything where there were promises made that Mr. Walid was going to take all of the assets of Mr. Martin?
Absolutely not. So the one thing that my dad was clear was that he had no intention of leaving him anything. So he has said that repeatedly, not only to me, but
Objection.
Basis, sir?
It's hearsay. It's hearsay.
Mr. Lee, it's not hearsay because it's a statement by an opposing party. That's an exception to the hearsay rule. In fact,
Okay.
more technically, it's not considered hearsay on the evidence code. So it's it is appropriate in this context. Okay? All right.
May I approach for the purpose of refreshing her memory?
Sure.
I'm not asking you to tell me about this stuff.
Objection, isn't this supposed to be put in as an exhibit?
Well,
I mean, she's showing us something I've never seen.
yes, let's do this first. There's an appropriate foundation that needs to be laid to refresh someone's recollection under the evidence code. I haven't heard that foundation. It's also, I think, helpful to show Mr. Lead what it is you're showing the witness.
Or you're not submitting it as evidence.
Typically, you wouldn't when you're refreshing someone's recollection, but I haven't heard the appropriate foundation to be able to have that line.
She's sitting there looking at it.
Mr. Lead, I'm handling the objection.
Are
Okay,
we going to
sir?
get a sticker on this? Or something that's going into evidence so I can call it back on an appeal or
Why don't you go ahead and mark that as
removal?
We're going to mark that as an exhibit, okay?
Please, thank you.
You don't have to offer it as an exhibit. We'll just mark it for the record, okay?
So in this, I believe, foundation, you had mentioned that you had a power of attorney. And I believe we had a copy. We did have a copy of the power of attorney. So had you signed a power of attorney?
Yes.
And we had discussed, or I'd asked you a question about if there was a specific piece of language in that power of attorney. So I'm bringing it to you to see if you can remember
Yes.
whether or not it removed all prior powers of attorney.
It does. It does.
Okay, and we have marked that as petitioner's exhibit. You're not offering it, but we're going to mark it for the record. And what was it? Can you identify it for the record again?
It's the power of attorney. I didn't think we had it, but we did.
Okay, and so what number have we got for petitioner?
1.
Oh, easy. All right, petitioner's 1. And I think Ms. Wilkes is just looking at it now.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Spitzer, in the dealing with the objection, I'm not sure that I quite got your recollection was refreshed.
Yes,
And what is it that you're
it does
telling
say in
me
there
now?
that it negates all of the powers of attorney. Yes, it does.
It does what?
It negates that that it cancels out any other power of attorneys.
But the power of attorney given to you revokes all prior powers
Yes.
of attorney. Okay, thank you. So if you're not offering it, you can keep it.
Yeah, I'm not offering it.
Yeah, maybe you can keep it.
No, I'm not offering it at all. Is this a true and accurate copy?
Yes, it is.
And just to refresh your memory, do you remember if this power of attorney revokes all prior powers of attorney?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have anything else that you think the court should know about Mr. Martin Sr.?
My dad is a very complicated man. He did not have his affairs in order. He really struggled with trusting people. He was making really bad decisions, I would say, the past 5 to 7 years, with him having diabetes and not taking care of himself. But he never had his affairs in order and really had become very angry and jaded against the world and everyone else. He has stated to me many a times that he had no plans on getting his affairs in order. He had no plans of leaving his money to his children and felt in particular that my brother was only looking to see what he could get, and he had no intentions of giving him anything. Like I said, he can be a very difficult person to deal with. I love my father very much. I did everything that I could to help him with his health and bring him back, but he just wouldn't listen. So he is where he is today because he made bad choices and trusting the wrong people who took advantage of his kindness. And what is happening here today is just another example of my brother taking advantage of my father because he can't speak for himself, because he knows if he could, he would let you know that he had no intention of leaving you anything. Whether you thought you were entitled to it or not, I told you at my house in
Objection, Your Honor,
2021.
she's talking to me like this is a personal
I
matter.
informed my brother that my father was not
Objection
getting
is overruled,
his
right.
things in order, and that he had no intention. I mean, I think for him, he's like, fight over it when I'm gone. But he had no intention of getting his affairs in order. nor did he ever say to me that he was leaving my brother or anybody anything. So it just upsets me that we're here. I really want someone to be able to take over and get my father's property and money back that was stolen from him so that he can be cared for in a home and taken care of as long as he's here to live. That's all I want, and that's why I'm here today.
Thank you. Mr. Rowley alleges that your father owes him about $33 million in a UCC claim. Do you know anything about this?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you believe it's accurate?
No, I do not.
And maybe two last questions. I know I talked about your opinion with Ms. Fuller. What is your opinion of Ms. Fossback? Jack.
I've had nothing but respect for the way that they've handled the situation with my father. They've been very responsive whenever I have questions about his health, if he's moved to another room, or I call to say, hey, I got these documents, what does this mean? They've been responsive and shown that they care and that they're doing their job to look out for my dad's best interests.
Thank you. Let's see, anything else you want the court to know about Mr. Waleed?
He can't be trusted. He lies constantly. He's narcissistic, and he's a liar. And it hurts me to say that in the court of law, but it's the truth. And this is not what my father would have wanted at all.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. Rudolph.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Rudolph.
Yes, I'd like to enter some documents into evidence. They are a durable power of attorney.
So let's take it, Mr. Wood, we'll take it one at a time. Let's
Okay.
mark on OW, objector, lead, and what letter we're up to, we'll put it on there, okay? And then I'll have you make sure that you show it to the other parties, and we'll move on from there, okay?
Okay.
I do not know.
What is it? Okay. Let me mark that out. This is the promissory note, real estate.
Yes, they're not marked.
Okay. I'll give you a moment. Thank you. Can you describe our father, his disposition as far as his personality?
Sure, Willie, I'm just gonna have you just sit. Sometimes when I have cases where I know there's a lot of
Tension.
and they're not animosity and
Okay.
tension between parties, I find
Gotcha.
it's usually better for them to
Okay, have a sit down.
Yeah,
Okay. You
yeah.
got it.
I don't even think it's not fair because I do let the lawyers do that, but they're not emotionally involved in the case. And so I'm going to have you stay seated, okay?
Okay. This is the cover of this. This is like all this in one.
If you submit this, it would be the whole thing.
It's the whole thing. Yes. It's
The last one I gave you, M. All right.
Yes. M-N or L-J-K-L-M.
Nathan, have you seen those?
J. This one didn't get a number.
Okay, Mr. Lee, go ahead.
I got one more. Now I can sit down.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Jasmine. Could you describe the occupation of Gregory John Sr., Martin Sr.?
He was an electrician.
Electrician, and was he also electrical contractor?
Objection, relevance.
Go ahead.
He was an electrician, he did electrical contract work.
Thank you. Do you remember anybody that worked with Gregory Martin Sr.? Any of his employees?
Not by name, no.
How long has Mr. Martin been an electrical contractor or electrician?
As long as that I can remember. That's what he's done for a living as his occupation.
Okay. Do you remember the name of Mr. Martin's business?
Amar Electric.
Did he ever change that name?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Where was Mr. Martin's place of business?
He was an electrician, so he went all over. He didn't
Well, I
actually
mean
have an
his
office.
office location.
He didn't have an office.
Do you recall, can you name any of the properties that Mr. Martin owned over the last, say, 30 years, 40 years?
He owned half of my mother's house on 8th and Brazil. He owned the house next door to that. He owned his house on Beach. He owned an apartment complex next to that. He owned a building on 28th in Alberta, and he owned another piece of property on 23rd in Alberta, which was a duplex. He also had owned a house off of Garfield that I believe he sold to Earl Wisdom back in the day. That's all the property that I'm aware of.
Did you have any billing when Mr. Martin was in his incapacitated state and you were his power of attorney? Did you buy, sell, swap, or trade any businesses with Mr. Luca Gorman?
No, I did not.
Remember, you're under oath.
No, I did not.
Okay. Okay. Do you know Mr. Luca Gorman?
Yes, I do.
Did you hire Mr. Gorman to do construction work for 5105 and 5107 Northeast 23rd?
No, I did not.
Did you purchase 5105 and 5107 Northeast 23rd?
No, I did not.
Did you ever do any, did you sell 5105 or 5107 during Mr. Martin's incapacitation?
No, I did not. I didn't sell
Objection.
any property. It's okay. I didn't sell any property of my father's at any time during the time that I had power of attorney or any other time in my life. Not one piece of property, nothing.
Okay. So,
Mr. Lee, I'm going to have you pause 1 second. There was an objection. Are you withdrawing an objection or are you still?
Objection to the line of questioning. I don't understand the relevance. She's not on trial for what she may or may not have done during her power of attorney timeframe. She has no interest in being a fiduciary. I don't understand the relevance of the line
I
of
can
questioning.
explain that very clearly.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
My father owned multiple properties. And during the time that Mrs. Bretthauer was responsible for his care, etc., there, according to all of our several witnesses and some title documents, etc., Mrs. Martin, Mrs. Bretthauer Martin, she used to be a Martin, it's my sister, she was taking care of my father, and there was a lot of transaction and changes that went through a title company that kind of washed everyone's name. So the ideal of not being the one, it's not something that can be just wiped away. We just want to get specific for the record. If she says she didn't have anything to do, it's all about the property and the assets of my father. There's $3 million missing out of the petition. And the several properties that are not called for, and she was a part of that process with Mr. Luca Gorman.
Okay. Before you respond, here's my line of thinking as to why some of these things are relevant, and this goes back to the objection that Mr. Rudolph had earlier. And so correct me if I'm wrong about where you're going with this, but my understanding is that you not only need to prove that preliminary things, but eventually you get to that the fiduciaries that you're proposing are appropriate in this case. But I think this is what I understand you have to do next, which is prove to the court that to the extent that there may already be a power of attorney, that power of attorney should be revoked and replaced with the fiduciaries that you're proposing. Is that an accurate reflection of my understanding of the law?
It is. As part of the, when you file a guardianship and conservatorship, you have to explain why the least restrictive means aren't available or are not working. But that least restrictive mean at the time was the power of attorney held by Miss Wilkes and, sorry, I forgot his name. Wisdom, thank you, Mr. Wisdom. It was not a power of attorney held by Mr. Waleed.
But I understand that's your position.
Certainly.
That's not his position. That's a factual issue that the court will have to sort out at the end
Certainly.
of this case. So I just wanted to know why I'm connecting some of these things. And so I think the questions that he's asking, whereas your witness is testifying that she thinks that your professional fiduciaries should be appointed, he is going to argue that, in fact, the least restrictive appointment should be him or somebody else in the family, potentially. And so I think he has the ability to ask questions as to going to witnesses' bias to make the certain statements that they prefer your people. So I just want you to know where I'm going. I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. And so with that in mind, I'm going to go back to your objection. Have you just restated and we'll go from there?
So our objection is relevancy, given the fact that the point of this hearing today is to determine capacity of Mr. Martin, and then to determine who should be the person next in line to serve as his permanent guardian. At this point, the petition that was established, and you accurately presented it earlier, effectively has been amended. You called it the Clowner claim, has been amended to be appointed as a personal representative, which I do not believe revived the original counterclaim. Therefore, at this point, there is nobody else being listed as the alternative to my clients that was not presented in a cross petition or anything like that, to my recollection.
Okay.
Well, isn't Ms. Wilkes, though, contending that she has a power of attorney?
I don't understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
Can I have the answer that will kind of resolve all this briefly?
Okay, I'll hear from you. Go ahead.
I have a power of attorney that was issued to me along with a pledge agreement, promissory note by my father, created by...
Okay, so I'm going to have you pause. So he's not asking to be appointed as... These two separate concepts from my perspective. He's not asking to be appointed as a guardian. He's saying, I've already got a power of attorney. That's an issue of fact that the court's going to sort out. But he's already saying, I've already got a power of attorney. So he's asking questions of this witness that I think go to bias. So I'm going to overrule your objection at this point, and you can continue.
Do you remember our father's brother, Uncle Nathan?
Yes,
Do you remember our father's brother, Uncle Milton?
yes,
Where did Uncle Milton live?
I don't remember, not in Oregon.
Do you remember Grandma Delsina?
Yes,
Do you know her last name?
Mark,
Any other name?
no, I called her grandma, so no, I wasn't close with her, but yes, I do know.
Okay. When's the last time you seen Grandma? Grandma Delsina, Uncle Nathan, Uncle Milton, our father, all together.
It's been years because 4 of those 5 people you just mentioned are deceased.
Yeah, but before they were deceased,
I don't recall. It's been decades.
any particular date or time?
It's been decades. I don't recall.
Do you remember Father's Day, 1993? Were you there at the Gladstone house of Uncle Nathan?
Yes.
Your Honor, can I say something?
No.
We have a lot of people here in the court.
Mr. Willie,
Okay.
I said no.
Oh, okay.
You can ask questions.
Okay,
Your
okay.
time to testify is
Okay.
done. I understand it's hard to wait.
Okay,
You're gonna
I got
get
it.
there. And
I
I
got
also
it.
want to, I'm not sure that this, you may be misunderstanding. Just because you mark an exhibit doesn't mean it's in evidence. So if you want an exhibit in evidence, then you need to make that part of your
Yeah,
case.
it's in evidence. I want to put these in evidence, but I had a.
Okay, well, just saying that's not how the process goes. So
Okay.
one at a time,
Okay,
you need to lay the appropriate legal foundation.
Okay.
Make sure the other side has seen it, and then ask that it be admitted in evidence if in
Okay.
fact that's what you want. So understand that anything that you've submitted today, just because you marked it, it's not, nothing is in evidence as far as I recall on your side. All right. Go
okay.
ahead.
How does that get into evidence?
I can't give you legal advice.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll ask the question. On June 20th, 1993, Father's Day, were you there with Grandma, Uncle Nathan, Uncle Milton, Uncle Ed, and Greg Sr.?
I believe so.
Are you sure?
That was over 20 years ago. I'm 54 years old. 1993 was
30 years ago, to be
Okay,
exact.
30 years ago. So
Okay, okay. We're going somewhere with this, Your Honor. There was a video taken on the Father's Day celebration. Were you in the video?
I believe so because you've shown it. Yes. What's your relevance to the questions you're asking?
So, Ms. Breathauer, I'm going to just pause. Listen, these are extremely emotional hearings, okay? But it's not appropriate after someone asks you a question for you to make a statement like that.
Okay. Sorry.
So understand that it's not lost on me how stressful this is.
Okay.
I just ask that you just kind of take a break and do your best to answer the questions, okay?
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
On Father's Day, June 20th, 1993, who was there at the Father's Day, or where was the Father's Day gathering?
I don't recall.
Okay. In what city was the Father's Day gathering?
I believe it was in Portland.
Okay. Who do you recall that was there? Was there anyone else that was there as far as your siblings, brothers or sisters were there?
I remember my sister being there.
Which one?
Alzina.
Okay. And do you remember the medical state that Uncle Nathan was in?
No, I do not.
What about Uncle Ed?
No, I do not.
Can you describe Uncle Ed to us?
He's been passed for 20 plus years.
Who is Uncle Ed's son?
His two sons, William and Elliot.
Does he have any daughters?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Was Uncle Ed ever married?
I don't remember if he was married. I know he lived with somebody back in the day, but I don't remember her name.
Do you remember Aunt Gladys, his wife?
No, it's not ringing a bell.
Objection, again, relevance.
Yeah, I'm not seeing where this is. Can you tell me why this is relevant?
Well, there was a big family event, Father's Day event, that had my father, Greg Sr., all of his brothers were there, Grandma and them were there, all of our cousins were there, and she wasn't there. It's all on video. So I'm asking the question. She wasn't there. So she already said she was, but she wasn't. I asked in the court that we're talking maybe on my time to come up, we could play the little 7-minute video, and everyone could see my father in his natural state, talking, loving, hugging everybody where he was mentally there. Okay, I'm just trying to say, we come from a construction family. So Uncle Ed, Uncle Nathan was the labor union president, Local 296. Uncle Ed was a carpenter. Uncle Milton was a carpenter. Okay.
I'm not entirely following how that
Okay.
makes it relevant.
Well-
I think you've made she doesn't seem to remember something about
Okay.
a family event that happened in 1993.
If she,
very well.
okay.
So you're going to have a chance in your case to
Okay.
talk about all these things. And I think
Okay.
she doesn't remember.
Okay.
But if there's, so why don't you ask me another question? I'm going to
So-
sustain the objection.
Okay, gotcha. So in 1993, what was I doing in 1993?
I don't know.
Did I work for my father as an electrical apprentice?
I don't know.
Have you ever known me to work for Amar Electric as an electrical apprentice in the last 40 years?
No.
I like to go and beautify this.
Okay, can you just tell me what that is? What's
Yeah,
it
I
marked
like
as?
the purpose of this is
No, what's it marked as?
it's marked as exhibit
OW L is in Lincoln.
dash L as in Lincoln. That's how I pronounce it.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
go ahead.
I wanted to share this with my sister. This is a 40-year Montana, Oregon, and Washington State as an electrician apprentice working for Amar Electric. Every time I went to advance to take a license, it had to be verification that was sent, verification form by each state electrical board that was signed by me and notarized by my father in order to get the credit for the 51,500 hours that I've worked from 1985 to 2019. All documented right here.
Right,
I just want to.
Have you shown that to?
Yeah, I showed this to this part.
I do
Okay.
not remember.
Oh, you don't
seeing this
remember
one.
that?
You
Well,
do,
I
don't.
went for the exhibit, they got to see it, that's what we thought. I would like to pass it on, so they could see it.
Okay.
And
So,
that's why I'm trying to show it.
pause, please. So
Okay.
I'm gonna have Miss Ellsbury look at the exhibit, and that's how we do this. That when you look at the exhibit, we do it one at a time, so it's nice and clear, right?
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm gonna let her look at this. But sometimes people might object, right? You might object to something, they might object, and then we gotta deal with that before we can move forward, okay?
Your Honor, apologies, since there's just one copy, if we could just have a moment so that we can make sure that Mr. Rudolph also is able to
Oh,
review
sure.
the document, would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Okay. You can go ahead and grab it, Mr. Willie. All right, so they both looked at it. Now, I guess I want to know, what does he want to do with it first?
Well, I want to let my sister see that she didn't know a whole bunch of times.
You want her to look at that exhibit?
Yes, this is my father's signatures, everything about his business, his location for the last 40 years.
Okay, so you're not asking that it be admitted yet?
Yes, I am asking, but you said
Okay.
there's another process for that.
All right. If you're going to ask it to be admitted, I think Ms. Ellsbury wanted to speak to that. So let's take up that issue first, okay, Mr. Willie? Now, you can hold on to it if you want. Ms. Ellsbury.
Well, I think if his
This is, just for the record, this is OW-L as in Lincoln.
correct.
Ms. Ellsbury.
Yeah, sure. If the purpose of using that document is to, for the truth of the matter asserted that he was an electrician or is an electrician or worked a certain number of hours or wherever he was working, I would argue it's hearsay. It doesn't fall within the document exception to hearsay because he's certainly not the one testifying to establish the authenticity of it. I don't think there's a foundation been laid, and she certainly had no personal knowledge about those documents for saying whether or not he completed those hours or if he did those things. I also don't really see the relevance in whether or not he wasn't or is an electrician or has ever worked for the dad. Again, I think the point of this hearing today is to determine whether or not the dad has capacity and whether or not They're someone that's appropriate to serve as a permanent fiduciary on his behalf.
Okay, Mr. Riddle, did you want to be heard?
I'll object on lack of foundation and hearsay.
Okay, so Mr. Lee, they're objecting, indicating that you, for varying reasons, that will take up the issue of being hearsay, a document
Well,
that's...
can I add to that? With their objection?
Can I set that? I'm setting you up so you understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
I'm trying to help you.
Gotcha.
Okay. So what's your response? They say, let's just take up first that it's hearsay. It's something written by somebody else, offered for the truth that's not here.
It wasn't, it was written by my father. This is his electrical verification from his business and from his personal signing the electrical experience. My dad won't sign anything unless you can prove it. This is my father's electrical license, my whole year working for him.
I'm happy to pause. I know you told me that it should be allowed because your dad wrote it and he's an opposing party. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Ms. Selker.
That's inaccurate, Your Honor. There are signatures from other people in there.
Okay, I think the only way I'm going to know is for me to provisionally take a look at it, and then I'll make a decision as to whether it's admissible. So you could bring it up to me soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I continue?
No, I need to review this first to make a decision, okay? Well, what's difficult about an exhibit like this is I haven't got all the way through it, but some of this purports to be letters signed. It's written by the respondent, or the petitioner, the respondent in this case, Mr. Martin Sr. Other things appear to not be. So I think that to the extent there are statements made by your dad in here,
51,000 hours.
okay. To the extent there are statements made by your dad in here, I think you need to pull those out. To the extent these are statements made by other people,
Yes.
then that's a different story. So we're going to take a break.
Sure.
And here's what I want to do so that we can be efficient, okay? And that is, any exhibit that you think that you might want to introduce, I'd like you to show the other side while we're on break, if you
Okay.
haven't done so already, and vice versa. If you have anything else, and then when we come back, hopefully we can move through this. So it's 2:10. We're going to come back at 2:25. You're free to sit down and go in the hall for a break. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Before we break,
Before 1 second.
can we confirm, so OWL was not received?
It is not received yet. The objection is still pending. Problem is, it's a number of things that need to be separated out. Ma'am, this.
Your Honor, as the court specific instruction, we're getting packets from Mr. Waleed. Is the court specific instruction to Mr. Waleed that he needs to parse out exactly what he is going to present to us? Otherwise, I fear that we're going to run into the exact same objections when we're getting packets of what looks like compiled documents and exhibits all in one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality is that I'm going to give you time, sir, but here's the thing. Is the difficulty when you don't have lawyers, right? You don't understand the rules of evidence, and it's understandable, but I still have to follow them. And so I'm giving you a little bit of leeway here. You need to be prepared with your case before you come to court today. That is not being prepared. If that packet comes to me when I come back from break, it's not coming into evidence because there's hearsay in that packet. If you can divide that packet in a way that there's not hearsay and it's otherwise admissible, then I'll consider it. But we're not taking another break for you to pull out things that are hearsay or maybe not hearsay that should have been done well in advance of today. Okay? So I'm giving you until 2:25 to be off the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.